They say you can't outrun a mate bond. I tried anyway. I packed my bags, grabbed my shears, and put 3 state borders between me and the bossiest billionaire alpha on Earth. He brought his thick wallet, his rules, and a dark scowl. I brought a plastic spray bottle and 0 fear. But before the cross-country chase, before the standoff in my new salon, and long before I sprayed the big bad wolf right in the face, there was just a regular Tuesday, a quiet, boring Tuesday, ruined by a dead car engine. Chapter 1. The engine of the sleek black sedan gave a loud, pathetic sputter before dying completely right in the middle of Main Street. Lincoln gripped the leather steering wheel. He glared at the dashboard lights flashing red. "You have got to be kidding me." Sitting in the passenger seat, Jessica gave a sweet, innocent smile. She patted her bright pink leather purse resting on her lap. As a witch, she knew exactly how to fry a car alternator with just a flick of her fingers, but she kept that to herself. "Oh no, looks like we are stuck, big brother." "I bought this car last week," Lincoln grumbled. His voice carried the rough, low rumble of an alpha wolf who was used to things working perfectly. The vehicle held a price tag fit for a king. It had 0 business breaking down in a dusty country town. Inside his head, his inner wolf offered a big, lazy yawn. "The seats are soft," the beast mumbled in his mind. "Let us just take a nap right here until the tow truck gets here. Do not make me walk." "We are not sleeping in the car," Lincoln muttered out loud. Jessica unbuckled her seatbelt. "Look, there is a hair salon right there on the corner. The sign says cut and curl. I need to ask them about my split ends anyway. Come on." She popped her door open and stepped onto the sidewalk. Lincoln let out a long breath. He hated small towns. He hated the lack of cell service. Most of all, he hated that his sister kept dragging him on these random road trips just to annoy him. He fixed the cuffs of his dark navy suit, stepped out of the dead vehicle, and followed her toward the shop. His polished black leather dress shoes clicked hard against the concrete. The bell above the salon door let out a loud, cheerful chime as Jessica pushed it open. Lincoln ducked his head to clear the doorframe. The place was small. The walls were painted a bright, headache-inducing peach. 2 old hairdryers sat in the corner, and a radio played a twangy country song. Vanessa stood behind the main styling chair. She held a pair of black-coated steel shears in her right hand and a black comb in her left. A plastic cape covered her current client, an older woman reading a gossip magazine. Vanessa blew a stray piece of hair out of her face and looked up at the door. The moment she saw Lincoln, she rolled her eyes. She knew exactly the type of man who just walked into her shop. He wore the kind of suit that screamed wealth and endless bank accounts. His shoulders were broad, filling up the small walkway. He stood with his back straight, oozing the bossy, entitled energy of an elite alpha. Vanessa recognized that energy right away. She ran from a pack full of men just like him. She left that life behind to cut hair in peace. She breathed in, catching the faint scent of crushed pine needles and rain rolling off his suit. It was a fresh, wild smell that completely clashed with the sweet citrus salon soap sitting on her counter. Jessica stepped right up to the front desk. "Hi there! My brother's car just broke down outside. Do you mind if we wait in here for a bit? I am Jessica, by the way." "Vanessa," she replied, not missing a beat. She snipped another piece of hair off her client. "You can sit in the waiting chairs by the window. Do not touch the magazines on the bottom rack. They belong to the owner." Lincoln crossed his arms over his broad chest. He stared around the tiny room. He hated the noise of the humming clippers. He hated the bright lights. He glared at Vanessa, clearly expecting her to stop working and cater to him. Instead, Vanessa ignored him. She spun her client's chair around to face the mirror. "How is the length, Betty? Want me to take another inch off the back?" Lincoln frowned. He was a billionaire. People usually tripped over themselves to get him a chair or offer him coffee. This local hairdresser did not even give him a second glance. He opened his mouth to demand some respect. His inner wolf groaned in his mind. "Just sit down in the plastic chair, boss. Do not start a fight. It is too early to be angry." Lincoln ignored the beast. He took a heavy step forward, his expensive black shoes sinking into the thin carpet. He planned to tell this woman exactly who he was. But the second he looked directly into her eyes through the mirror, everything stopped. Chapter 2. The mate bond hit them both like a sudden lightning strike. The heavy shears slipped from Vanessa's fingers and clattered onto the linoleum floor. Her heart slammed against her ribs. The air in the tiny salon vanished. A jolt of raw, wild electricity shot straight down her spine. Her wild beta wolf woke up inside her mind, pacing back and forth, howling at the sudden rush of power. Lincoln froze mid-step. His pupils blew wide. The grumpy, sleepy wolf inside his head snapped awake, standing at full attention. "Mate," the beast rumbled, his voice shaking the walls of Lincoln's mind. "She is ours." For 10 long seconds, nobody said a word. The twangy country music kept playing from the radio, but Vanessa could only hear the rushing of her own blood. She stared at the giant man in the navy suit. She refused to accept this. She ran away from controlling pack life for a reason. She built this quiet, peaceful world for herself. She was not going to give it all up just because fate decided to tie her to some rich, grumpy snob who looked like he barked orders for a living. Lincoln found his voice first. He did not ask questions. He did not introduce himself. He just let his thick, demanding alpha tone fill the room. "Drop the comb," Lincoln ordered. He pointed a long finger toward the front door. "Pack your things. You are coming with me right now." Jessica gasped from the waiting chairs. She gripped her pink purse with both hands, a huge smirk spreading across her face. Her matchmaking spell worked better than she ever planned. Vanessa's inner wolf snarled. "Tell him no. Bite him if he gets closer." Vanessa picked up her scissors from the floor and wiped them off on her jeans. She stood up straight, crossing her arms. She looked the billionaire up and down, letting out a sharp, genuine laugh. "Excuse me?" Vanessa asked. "Did you hit your head on the steering wheel when your car broke down? Because you sound crazy right now." Lincoln stepped closer. His jaw tightened. "You are my mate. I am taking you back to the city with me. I will buy this building and shut it down today. You do not need to work here anymore. Let us go." Vanessa did not flinch. Most wolves would drop their heads and submit to that kind of heavy alpha command. Vanessa just smirked. She stepped right up to his chest, tilting her head back to meet his glare. "Listen to me very carefully, Suit," Vanessa said, her voice dropping low and dangerous. "I do not care about your money. I do not care about your title, and I sure as hell do not care about this bond. Nobody comes into my shop and tells me what to do. The door is right behind you. Use it." Lincoln blinked. The command did not work. She did not bow. She just threatened him right back. He opened his mouth to try again, dropping his voice an octave to use his pure alpha dominance. Vanessa beat him to it. She pointed her black-coated shears right at the center of his chest. "I said, get out." His inner wolf let out a loud, mocking laugh inside his head. "Good job, boss man. You barked at her and she bit back. You ruined it. Can we just go take a nap now? She clearly hates us." Lincoln clamped his mouth shut. He stared at the fierce, fiery woman standing her ground. He realized quickly that fighting her right now would just make a huge scene in front of the old lady sitting in the styling chair. "This is not over," Lincoln grumbled. He spun around on his heel, grabbed the handle of the front door, and yanked it open. The chime clattered loudly. He stormed outside onto the sidewalk, his chest burning with frustration. He was a man who got what he wanted, when he wanted it. This rejection stung. Inside the shop, Jessica jumped up from the waiting chair. "Well, that was intense. I should go check on him." Jessica hurried out the door, the bell chiming one more time as it slammed shut. Vanessa let out a shaky breath. She leaned back against her counter, trying to calm her racing heart. She survived the first encounter. Then she looked down at the front desk. Sitting right next to her appointment book was Jessica's bright pink leather purse. Chapter 3. Outside on the sidewalk, Lincoln paced back and forth next to his dead car. He dragged a hand through his neat hair, ruining the perfect style. "She told me to leave," Lincoln muttered. "Me. I run 5 companies. I own half the real estate in my city. A woman with a pair of cheap scissors just kicked me out of a peach-colored room." Jessica stood by the car bumper, fighting back a laugh. "You did walk in there and try to order her around like an employee, Lincoln. You cannot just demand a woman drop her entire life and follow you to the city." "She is my mate," Lincoln argued. "That is how it works." His wolf snorted in his mind. "Apparently not. She is tough. I like her. You should have brought snacks instead of threats. Everyone likes snacks." Lincoln rubbed his temples. He needed to figure out a new plan. He needed to get her alone and explain exactly what his wealth and protection could offer her. He turned to Jessica. "Give me my phone. I need to call a car service." Jessica patted her empty hands against her sides. She put on a look of total panic. "Oh no, I left my purse inside the salon. My phone is in there, and my wallet." Lincoln narrowed his eyes. "Go get it then." "I cannot," Jessica whined. "My stomach hurts. I need to sit down on this bench, please, big brother. Just run back in and grab it for me. It is bright pink. You cannot miss it." Lincoln knew she was playing a game. He knew she just wanted him back inside that room with his mate. But he had no choice. He turned around and marched right back to the salon doors. He pushed inside, the bell chiming its annoying tune yet again. Vanessa was wiping down the counter with a towel. The old woman was gone. The shop was empty. When Vanessa saw him walk back in, she stopped wiping. "You forget how to read a closed sign?" Vanessa asked. Lincoln pointed at the bright pink leather purse sitting next to the cash register. "My sister left her bag." He walked over to the desk. He did not grab the bag right away. Instead, he leaned his hip against the counter. He decided to try a different tactic. He wanted to impress her. "Look, I started off on the wrong foot," Lincoln said smoothly. "You do not know who I am. My name is Lincoln. I have enough money to buy this entire block. If you come with me, you will never have to sweep up another pile of hair again. I can give you mansions, cars, security." Vanessa picked up the pink purse and held it out to him. She did not look impressed. She looked bored. "Keep your checkbook in your pocket, Lincoln," Vanessa countered. Her words hit fast and sharp. "I do not care about your portfolio. I like cutting hair. I like my life. You think walking in here and throwing your bank account in my face makes you a good mate? It just makes you loud." Lincoln felt a flash of real shock. No one ever talked to him like this. "I am offering you the world," he pushed. "You are offering me a cage," Vanessa shot back. "I grew up around rich alphas who think money buys obedience. It does not work on me. Take the purse and go check on your broken car." She shoved the pink bag right into his chest. Lincoln grabbed the straps to keep it from falling. He stared at her, totally out of his element. His wealth meant nothing here. His alpha voice meant nothing here. For the first time in his life, Lincoln had zero control over a situation. Chapter 4. Vanessa kept her eyes locked on Lincoln's face. Her wild inner wolf was doing flips in her mind, thrilled by the fight. The beast wanted to push the billionaire even further. "Look at him stand there," her wolf cheered. "He is so confused. Tell him his suit is ugly. Bite his shiny shoes. Bite the leather." Vanessa pushed the crazy thought away. She was not going to bite the man's black dress shoes, no matter how much her wolf wanted to start a brawl. She just wanted him out of her space. Lincoln did not move. He stood there holding the bright pink purse against his dark navy suit. He expected fear from her. He expected her to tremble or at least show some respect to his alpha blood. Instead, she looked at him like he was a stray dog tracking mud onto her clean floor. "I am not leaving until you agree to have dinner with me," Lincoln stated. He planted his black shoes firm on the floor. "I eat at home," Vanessa replied. "Then I will come to your home," Lincoln countered. Vanessa laughed. It was a bright, mocking sound. She turned around, walked over to the corner, and grabbed a bright yellow plastic broom. She marched back to the front desk and shoved the handle right toward Lincoln. If you are going to stand around my shop and refuse to leave, you can make yourself useful, Vanessa told him. Sweep up Betty's hair from around the styling chair. Put it in the dustpan. Lincoln stared at the yellow plastic handle hovering near his chest. You want me to sweep? Unless you brought a maid in your back pocket, yes, she said. His inner wolf let out a loud snort of laughter. Oh, this is rich. Take the broom, boss. She gave us a chore. You better do it right or she will yell at us again. Lincoln slowly reached out and wrapped his large hand around the cheap plastic handle. He felt entirely ridiculous. He managed corporate takeovers. He commanded hundreds of wolves. Now, he was holding a broom in a peach-colored room because a sassy beta refused to bow to him. He walked over to the styling chair. He dragged the broom across the floor, gathering up the silver hair clippings. He moved stiffly, clearly having no idea how to properly sweep a floor. Vanessa leaned against the counter and watched him work. A small smile fought its way onto her lips. Seeing the big, grumpy billionaire awkwardly sweep her floor took away the last bit of his scary alpha edge. You missed a spot by the mirror, Vanessa pointed out. Lincoln gritted his teeth. He pushed the broom harder, sweeping the hair into a pile. I am only doing this because my car is broken and I have nowhere else to stand. Sure thing, Lincoln, Vanessa mocked. Just keep sweeping. He finished the pile and grabbed the dustpan. He dumped the hair into the trash can. He felt a weird sense of accomplishment. He turned back to Vanessa, ready to try asking her out to dinner one more time. Before he could open his mouth, the front door chimed again. Jessica stuck her head inside the shop. Hey, the tow truck is here. We have to go. Lincoln dropped the broom against the wall. He picked up the pink purse. He looked at Vanessa, his dark eyes locking onto hers. The mate bond buzzed between them, hot and undeniable. I will be back, Lincoln promised. Vanessa crossed her arms. I will lock the door. Lincoln walked out, the bell chiming as the door shut behind him. Vanessa let out a long breath. Her wild wolf paced in her mind, already missing the fight. Vanessa knew this was not over, but she also knew she was never going to let that man boss her around. If he wanted a quiet, obedient mate, he picked the wrong wolf. Chapter 5. Jessica stumbled back through the front door of the shop, gripping her stomach with both hands. She leaned against the doorframe and let out a loud, dramatic groan. She looked at her brother, then at Vanessa. The tow truck driver dropped my car off at the local garage, Jessica whined, her voice carrying an extra layer of fake misery. But the mechanic needs 3 hours to fix the alternator. I am starving. I feel faint. My blood sugar is crashing. If I do not eat a burger in the next 5 minutes, I will pass out right here on this floor. Vanessa crossed her arms and shook her head. She saw right through the terrible acting. There is a vending machine down the street. Go buy some chips. Jessica dropped to her knees. She grabbed the edge of the styling counter. Please, you have to show us where the good food is. You know this town. Lead the way. I beg you. Vanessa let out a sharp breath. She wanted these two out of her space, but leaving a wailing woman on her floor was bad for business. She tossed her protective black rubber gloves onto the counter. Fine, there is a diner 2 blocks away, but I am not sitting with you. 10 minutes later, Vanessa found herself sitting in a sticky red vinyl booth across from the grumpy billionaire. Jessica claimed she needed to use the restroom the second they walked into the Rusty Spoon. She never came back. She sneaked right out the back door, leaving them trapped together. Lincoln stared down at the laminated menu, his face twisted in pure disgust. He wore a custom dark navy suit. The tailored fabric was a bold display of wealth, standing out against the peeling paint and faded posters of the diner walls. He looked like a king forced to sit in a mud puddle. The watch on his left wrist carried a price tag big enough to buy the entire restaurant outright. This table is sticky, Lincoln grumbled. He dropped the menu onto the table. I cannot eat here. I will buy the place, fire the cook, and bring in my private chef. Or I will just pay that family in the corner to leave so we can have some quiet. Vanessa kicked his shin under the table. She hit bone hard. Lincoln jolted in his seat. His dark eyes snapped up to meet hers. "You kicked me." "Keep your money in your pocket," Vanessa warned. "That is the mayor and his kids in that corner. You do not own this town, Lincoln. Stop acting like the world owes you a favor. The food here is great. Eat a burger or starve, I do not care." Her wild beta wolf cheered in her mind. Bite his other leg. Flip the table over. Tell him his tie looks silly. Lincoln rubbed his leg. He glared at her. He tried to summon his heavy alpha authority, but the harsh diner lighting ruined the effect. His lazy inner wolf let out a deep, rumbling laugh inside his head. "She kicked you," the beast purred, sounding entirely too happy. "I like her. Order the double bacon burger, boss. Then we can take a nap." A teenage waitress popped her chewing gum and stepped up to the booth. She held a small green notepad. "What can I get you folks?" "I will have the chicken fry," Vanessa said, handing over her menu, "and a black coffee." The waitress turned to Lincoln. He stared at the girl, completely out of his element. He was used to ordering rare steaks in towering glass buildings. "Bring me your cleanest glass of water, and whatever she is having." The waitress tapped her green notepad, nodded, and walked away. Lincoln leaned forward. He rested his elbows on the sticky table, ignoring the grime. The mate bond buzzed in the space between them. It felt like a live wire sparking on wet pavement. He dropped his voice, aiming for a smooth, charming tone. "You think you can just push me away," Lincoln said. "But my sister left us here on purpose. She knows we belong together. You feel the pull just as much as I do. Stop fighting it. Pack your bags tonight and come home with me." Vanessa leaned forward too, matching his intense stare. "I told you no. I like my life. I like my shop. Your money and your fancy suits mean nothing to me. If you think trapping me in a booth changes my mind, you are worse at this than I thought." She stood up, grabbed her jacket, and walked right out the front door, leaving him sitting alone with 2 orders of chicken fries. Chapter 6. The front door of her small apartment slammed shut. Vanessa locked the deadbolt and leaned against the wood. Her chest heaved up and down. She lived on the 2nd floor, right above the salon. The space was tiny, but it belonged to her. She paced across the faded living room rug. Her wild wolf paced right along with her inside her mind, snapping its jaws. "He is too bossy," her inner wolf growled. "He thinks he can buy us. Let us leave. We need the open road. Start the car." Vanessa ran her hands through her hair. She spent 3 years building a quiet, normal routine in this town. She escaped an elite pack just to avoid men exactly like Lincoln. He was arrogant. He commanded every room he entered. He expected the world to bow just because he flashed a dark stare and a thick wallet. She walked into her bedroom and pulled a faded green canvas duffel bag from under her bed. She refused to become a trophy for a rich alpha. The mate bond was strong, pulling at her heart, but her stubborn streak was stronger. If she stayed, he would never stop pushing. He would buy the diner. He would buy her salon. He would trap her in a golden cage of his own design until she forgot how to fight back. Vanessa unzipped the green bag. She moved fast. She threw in her favorite jeans, a pile of worn t-shirts, and a heavy winter coat. She walked over to her bathroom counter and grabbed her styling tools. She made sure to pack her special cutting shears first. As a wolf, handling raw silver burned her skin, so she only used shears coated in thick black protective plastic. She zipped the tools into a side pocket. She grabbed her keychain from the kitchen counter. A single brass key dangled next to a plastic toy wolf. The key belonged to her trusty, beat-up, rusty blue sedan parked in the back alley. "I am not playing his game," Vanessa said aloud to the empty room. She swung the heavy duffel bag over her shoulder. She took one last look at the apartment. She left the dishes in the sink. She left the television plugged in. She marched out the door, locking it behind her, and skipped down the back stairs into the cool night air. The rusty blue sedan sat under a flickering street lamp. The engine roared to life on the second try, coughing a cloud of white smoke before settling into a steady hum. Vanessa threw her bag into the passenger seat. She shifted the car into drive and hit the gas pedal. She drove out of the small country town without looking in the rearview mirror. The highway stretched out ahead, a long ribbon of black asphalt illuminated only by her headlights. She rolled the windows down. The wind whipped through the car, tearing the perfect style from her hair. Her wild wolf howled in her mind, thrilled by the sudden escape. "Faster!" the beast cheered. "Leave the grumpy suit behind!" Vanessa turned up the radio. A loud rock song blasted through the cheap speakers. She pressed her foot harder on the gas. The speedometer needle climbed higher. She drove through the entire night. She watched the green highway signs blur past her window. State line number 1 appeared and vanished in the dark. She stopped for cheap coffee at a gas station just as the sun started to rise, painting the sky in bright pinks and oranges. She paid in cash. She left no paper trail. State line number 2 passed by around noon. Her shoulders relaxed with every mile marker she left behind. The heavy, suffocating pressure of Lincoln's alpha aura faded from her memory. She was in control again. She found an old motel off the interstate, slept for a few hours, and got right back on the road. By the time she crossed state line number 3, the landscape completely changed. The flat country roads turned into winding, hilly paths. She drove until she found a place that felt right. A place where a billionaire wolf in a custom suit would never think to look. She parked her rusty blue car, grabbed her green bag, and prepared to start over. Chapter 7. Morning sunlight hit the cracked sidewalk outside the Cut and Curl salon. Lincoln stepped out of a black town car, his jaw set hard. He wore a fresh charcoal suit. He spent the entire night fuming in his luxury hotel room after Vanessa walked out of the diner. He walked up to the peach-colored building and grabbed the front door handle. He pulled. It did not budge. Lincoln frowned. He rattled the handle again. The door stayed locked. The small, open sign remained flipped to closed. He pressed his hands against the front window and peered inside the dark shop. The styling chairs sat empty. The floor was spotless. No rubber-coated shears sat on the counter. A cold, sharp realization hit him like a punch to the gut. She was gone. His dark eyes widened. He took a step back from the glass. The mate bond, the invisible string tying his soul to hers, stretched thin and distant in his chest. She actually ran away from him. A fierce, burning rage flared up in his throat. He was an alpha. People ran to him for safety and money. Nobody ran away. Inside his head, the lazy wolf snapped awake. The beast stood up, shaking off the sleep. For the first time, the wolf was not yawning. It was pacing. "She left us," the wolf rumbled, a deep, sorrowful sound echoing in Lincoln's mind. "You scared her off with all your rules. Go find her. I want to sleep next to her. Bring her back right now." The wolf curled back into a ball and went completely silent, refusing to offer any more help. Lincoln pulled his phone from his inside jacket pocket. His fingers hit the screen with quick, angry taps. He called his head of security. The man answered on the first ring. "Get a team together," Lincoln barked, his voice pure, unyielding command. "I need you to pull the town traffic cameras from last night. Track a rusty blue sedan. I want license plate hits. I want credit card sweeps. I want gas station footage. Do not stop until you find out exactly what highway she took." "Right away, sir," the voice on the other end replied. Lincoln hung up. He stared at the empty salon one last time. He underestimated her. He thought flashing his wealth and demanding obedience would make her fall in line. He forgot he was dealing with a beta who survived pack life before. She knew all the tricks, and she rejected every single one. Jessica walked up the sidewalk, holding 2 cups of expensive coffee. She took one look at Lincoln's face and stopped in her tracks. "Where is she?" Jessica asked, lowering the cups. "She ran," Lincoln answered, his voice tight. "She packed up and crossed the border. She thinks she can just disappear." Jessica tried to hide a small smirk behind her coffee cup. She knew her brother needed a challenge, and the universe just handed him the biggest one of his life. "What are you going to do?" "I am going to hunt," Lincoln stated. For 3 days, Lincoln turned his entire corporate empire into a tracking machine. He ignored his board meetings. He ignored his daily reports. He sat in his towering city office, surrounded by maps and computer screens. His security team traced the blue car on highway cameras. They lost her twice in rural areas, but Lincoln threw more money at the problem. He hired private investigators. He paid local informants. He tracked a cash purchase at a roadside motel. He followed the digital breadcrumbs she tried so hard to hide. Finally, a hit came through on the main screen. A traffic camera caught the rusty blue sedan pulling into a small coastal town 3 states away. Lincoln stood up from his leather desk chair. He buttoned his suit jacket. A dark, triumphant smirk crossed his face. She played a good game. She put up a great fight, but nobody escaped him forever. "Prep the jet," Lincoln told his empty office. "I am going to get my mate." Chapter 8. 3 days later, Vanessa stood behind a brand new styling chair. She wiped the mirror down with a blue towel and smiled. She found a quirky, quiet town right near the rocky coast. The air here carried a crisp, wonderful scent of fresh sea breeze. It filled her lungs every time she stepped outside. The heavy weight she carried in her chest vanished. She felt like a boulder rolled right off her shoulders. She walked into a small local shop called Curl and Dye yesterday morning, showed her black plastic shears, and did a test cut for the owner. The owner, a loud woman named Brenda, hired her on the spot. "You have good hands, girl," Brenda shouted from the front register. She counted a stack of single bills. "The last girl I hired dropped a comb in a guy's ear. You are a lifesaver." "Thanks, Brenda," Vanessa called back. She organized her tools on the wooden counter. She breathed out a long, happy sigh. Her wild inner wolf was finally relaxed. The beast curled up in the back of her mind, content with the sounds of the crashing waves and the hum of the blow-dryers. The danger was miles away. The grumpy billionaire was back in his glass tower, probably yelling at a board of directors. She won. The morning rush started slow. Vanessa cut hair for a local fisherman who talked the entire time about his boat. She trimmed the bangs of a little girl who refused to sit still. The work was simple. The people were kind. Nobody demanded anything from her. Around noon, the shop emptied out for lunch. Brenda ran next door to grab sandwiches, leaving Vanessa alone to sweep the floor. Vanessa grabbed the broom. She pushed the loose hair into a neat pile. She hummed a random tune, feeling entirely at peace. Her rusty blue sedan was parked safely out back. Her green duffel bag was sitting in her new, cheap motel room. She beat the system. She outran an elite alpha. Her inner wolf stretched lazily in her mind. "We did good," the wolf murmured. "No more suits, no more orders." Vanessa bent down to scoop the hair into the dustpan. A sudden, heavy pressure slammed into the room. The air grew thick. The tiny hairs on Vanessa's arms stood straight up. Her inner wolf let out a sharp, panicked bark. The mate bond, which stayed quiet for 3 entire days, suddenly roared to life. It burned in her chest like a lit match dropped on dry wood. Vanessa froze. Her grip tightened on the plastic dustpan handle. Heavy, polished dress shoes clicked against the concrete outside. A dark shadow fell over the front window, blocking out the bright coastal sun. The bell above the shop door did not just chime. The door swung open with a violent, heavy shove, banging loudly against the interior wall. The wood rattled in the frame. Vanessa stood up slowly. She dropped the dustpan. Lincoln stood in the doorway. He wore a crisp, tailored black suit that looked completely ridiculous in a beach town. He filled the entire entrance. His broad shoulders blocked the exit. His dark eyes locked onto hers with a burning, relentless intensity. He did not look tired from the journey. He looked victorious. He stepped over the threshold, bringing his heavy, commanding alpha energy right into her safe space. He crossed his arms over his chest. A slow, arrogant smirk spread across his face. "Found you," Lincoln said. Chapter 9. The plastic dustpan slipped from Vanessa's fingers and clattered against the shop floor. Lincoln stood in the open doorway of the curl and dye salon. "Found you." The words hit the room like a physical blow. The fresh sea breeze rolling in from the coastal town collided with the sharp scent of crushed pine needles radiating from his tailored black suit. He took a step inside. The heavy soles of his leather dress shoes clicked hard against the worn linoleum. He filled the space, bringing a wave of bossy, commanding alpha energy that sucked the air right out of the room. Vanessa's heart did a frantic flip in her chest, but she locked her knees and refused to take a step back. She wore a faded vintage t-shirt and ripped jeans, a stark contrast to the billionaire standing in front of her. Her wild beta wolf snapped awake in her mind. The beast paced, baring her teeth. "He tracked us. Fight him. Throw a hairdryer. Bite his expensive shoes." Lincoln crossed his arms over his chest. A dark, arrogant smirk played on his lips. He looked victorious. "Did you really think 3 state lines would stop me? You left a trail, a cash purchase at a cheap roadside motel, a blurry traffic camera shot of your rusty blue sedan. I own a private jet, Vanessa. I own a security team that tracks people for a living. You cannot hide from me." Vanessa bent down and picked up the dropped dustpan. She tossed it onto the styling counter next to her black-coated steel shears. She leaned her hip against the wood and let out a dry laugh. "Congratulations," Vanessa mocked. "You spent thousands of dollars to find a woman who cuts hair. Do you want an award? Maybe a shiny gold star for your suit lapel?" The smirk vanished from Lincoln's face. He expected panic. He expected her to tremble and apologize for running away. Instead, she stood there looking completely bored by his dramatic entrance. Inside his head, his lazy inner wolf stretched out. "We found her. Good. The floor here looks clean. Let us take a nap. Tell her to lock the door so we can sleep in peace." Lincoln ignored the beast. He took another step forward. The heavy luxury watch on his wrist caught the afternoon light. "I am not here to play games. You are my mate. You belong with me in the city, not sweeping up hair in a beach town. Get your green canvas bag. We are leaving." "I am on the clock, suit," Vanessa shot back. "I have a perm scheduled at 2 o'clock. I do not run away from my appointments, and I sure as hell do not take orders from a man who breaks into my shop acting like he owns the postal code." "I can buy this entire town and shut it down by dinner," Lincoln warned, dropping his voice into a low, commanding alpha rumble. Anna pushed off the counter. She marched right up to him, stopping inches from his chest. She tilted her chin up to meet his glare. "Keep your wallet closed. You hold zero power here. You are just a man blocking my light." The mate bond flared between them, hot and electric, but Vanessa shoved the feeling aside. She stared him down, waiting for his next move. Lincoln clenched his jaw. He faced corporate sharks and rival alphas without breaking a sweat, but this stubborn woman pushed every single one of his buttons. He opened his mouth to bark another order. Vanessa reached behind her without looking away from his eyes. Her fingers wrapped around the plastic neck of her water spray bottle. Chapter 10. "I said pack your things," Lincoln repeated, leaning closer. Vanessa squeezed the plastic trigger. Spritz! Spritz! A cold mist of water hit Lincoln right in the face. Droplets caught in his eyelashes and ran down the bridge of his nose. Tiny spots of water darkened the lapels of his crisp black suit. Lincoln froze. Total shock washed over his features. He blinked, the water stinging his eyes. He ran board meetings. He commanded a huge pack. Nobody treated him like a misbehaving house cat. Vanessa kept the plastic nozzle pointed right at his nose. "I said I have a perm at 2. Step back or I will drench your fancy jacket." Her inner wolf howled with laughter. "Yes, drown him. Spray his shoes next." Lincoln wiped the water from his face with the back of his hand. His chest heaved. He stared at her, trying to process the sheer disrespect. His inner wolf let out a deep, booming laugh that shook the walls of his mind. "She sprayed you!" the wolf cheered. "You tried to use the scary voice and she gave you a bath. This is the best mate ever. Marry her right now, do not argue." "You just sprayed me with a water bottle," Lincoln said, his voice flat. "And I will do it again," Vanessa promised. She gave the bottle a little shake. "Now move out of my walkway. You are scaring away paying customers." Lincoln realized his usual tactics held no weight. Yelling failed. Ordering failed. Throwing his bank account at her failed. He needed a new strategy. He wiped the last drop of water from his chin, walked past her, and dropped his heavy frame into the cheap plastic waiting chair near the window. He crossed his legs, resting his ankle on his knee. "Fine," Lincoln said. "I will wait. Cut your hair. Do your perm. I have nowhere else to be." Vanessa groaned. "You cannot sit there." "It is a waiting area," Lincoln countered, gesturing to the stack of old magazines. "I am waiting." Before Vanessa could argue, the front door chimed. Brenda walked in holding a paper bag containing 2 foil-wrapped sandwiches. She stopped in her tracks, staring at the giant billionaire sitting in her flimsy plastic chair. Brenda looked at Lincoln's tailored suit, the heavy watch, and his scowling face. Then she looked at Vanessa. "Did someone call the mafia?" Brenda asked, clutching the paper bag to her chest. "He is just a stray," Vanessa replied, returning the spray bottle to the counter. "He got lost on his way to a country club. Ignore him." Brenda walked behind the counter and set the bag down. She offered Lincoln a cautious wave. "You want half a turkey sandwich, big guy?" Lincoln glared at the foil wrappers. "I prefer meals that do not come out of a paper sack. No." Vanessa rolled her eyes. She grabbed her black-coated shears and a comb. "Suit yourself, but if you sit in that chair, you keep quiet. One snarl, one rude comment to my boss, and I will soak your entire head in styling gel." Lincoln crossed his arms. He offered a tight nod. He planned to sit right there and wear down her defenses. He had infinite patience when it came to business acquisitions, and he decided to treat this stubborn beta the exact same way. Chapter 11. The afternoon rush hit Curl and Die like a tidal wave. Lincoln maintained his post in the plastic waiting chair. He watched Vanessa work. Her hands moved with practiced skill, snipping and styling while she chatted with the locals. Every time a male customer walked through the door, Lincoln's heavy alpha energy spiked. He glared at the men, his jaw tight, radiating a silent warning. A young local guy wearing board shorts and a tank top walked in for a buzz cut. He took one look at Lincoln's dark, brooding stare and froze in the doorway. The guy mumbled, taking a step backward. "Is this a bad time? I can come back." Vanessa dropped her comb on the counter. She placed her hands on her hips and shot Lincoln a furious look. "Stop staring at my clients. You look like a gargoyle." Lincoln did not blink. "I am just observing the local wildlife." "You are intimidating a college kid who needs a haircut," Vanessa corrected. She turned to the customer and offered a bright, welcoming smile. "Come on in, Tyler. Ignore my grumpy assistant. He forgets his manners when he misses his nap time." Lincoln bristled. "Assistant?" Tyler scurried past Lincoln and dropped into Vanessa's styling chair. He kept his eyes locked straight ahead in the mirror, clearly terrified of the billionaire watching his every move. Vanessa grabbed a bright pink styling cape. Instead of wrapping it around Tyler, she walked over to Lincoln. She tossed the folded pink plastic right into his lap. "Since you want to sit here all day, you get a job," Vanessa ordered. "Fold those clean towels in the basket next to you, and do not mess up the edges." Lincoln stared at the pink cape, then down at the laundry basket full of blue salon towels. A billionaire folding laundry in a beach town. If his board of directors saw him now, corporate stocks would plummet. "I do not fold," Lincoln stated. Vanessa picked up her water bottle. She aimed the nozzle at his chest. Lincoln snatched a blue towel from the basket. "I am folding." His inner wolf purred. "Listen to her, boss. Fold the squares. She is the alpha here. Just accept it." For the next hour, Lincoln sat in his expensive black suit, meticulously folding cheap blue towels. Vanessa watched him in the mirror while she buzzed Tyler's hair. Every time Lincoln tried to slack off, she gave him a sharp look, and he went right back to work. Brenda watched the entire scene from the cash register, thoroughly entertained. "You have him trained well, Vanessa. Does he do windows too?" "Only if you threaten to spray him," Vanessa joked. Lincoln gritted his teeth, placing a perfectly folded towel on the stack. His pride took a beating, but he refused to leave the shop. The fresh sea breeze drifted through the open window, mixing with his scent of crushed pine needles. He watched Vanessa laugh with Brenda. He saw the fire in her eyes. He realized money would never impress her. He had to prove he respected her space, even if it meant folding every single towel in the building. Chapter 12. The sun dipped low outside the front window, casting long orange shadows across the salon floor. Brenda locked the register, grabbed her keys, and waved goodbye. "Do not stay too late, Vanessa," Brenda called out, "and make sure the stray dog finds his way home." The door chimed shut. Vanessa and Lincoln were alone. Vanessa grabbed the broom and started sweeping the loose hair from the afternoon rush. Lincoln sat in the waiting chair, surrounded by a perfect tower of folded blue towels. The silence between them felt heavy, charged with the crackling electricity of the mate bond. Inside their minds, the wolves waged their own battle. Vanessa's wild beta wolf paced a trench in her thoughts. Her wolf hated sitting still. "He folded the towels, but he is still a suit," her beast growled. "He still wants to trap us in the city. Tell him to leave. Show your fangs. Prove we do not need him." Lincoln's lazy alpha wolf offered a completely different vibe. "Look at that welcome mat by the door," his wolf whined. "It looks scratchy, but I do not care. I want to lay down on it and watch her sweep. Tell her we are staying. Tell her I want a belly rub." Lincoln rubbed the back of his neck. He watched the rhythmic motion of Vanessa pushing the broom. He realized his entire approach was flawed from the start. He treated their bond like a corporate merger. He issued commands and expected immediate compliance. He failed to see the warrior spirit inside her. "You did a good job with the towels," Vanessa offered, breaking the silence. She pushed the hair into the dustpan. "I demand excellence in all my endeavors," Lincoln replied, a hint of his old arrogance slipping out. Vanessa dumped the hair in the trash and leaned against the counter. "You demand obedience. There is a difference. That is why I packed my green canvas bag and drove away. I survived a pack full of men who loved hearing their own voices. I built this life so I never have to hear another barked order again." Lincoln stood up from the plastic chair. He walked toward her, stopping a respectful distance away. He kept his hands out of his pockets, showing his palms in a gesture of peace. He dropped the heavy alpha tone from his voice. "I tracked you because the bond pulled me," Lincoln admitted, his voice quiet, lacking the usual rumble. "I walked through that door expecting to drag you back to my world. But watching you today, watching you run this place, mock my suit, and defend your clients." He paused, letting the scent of fresh sea breeze wash over them. "I realized my world is boring compared to yours," Lincoln finished. Vanessa's breath hitched. Her inner wolf stopped pacing. The wild beast tilted its head, listening to the honest tone in his voice. This was not a command. This was a surrender. "So what happens now?" Vanessa asked, her grip tightening on the broom handle. "Now," Lincoln said, a genuine smile breaking through his grumpy exterior, "I ask you to put the water bottle down, and I invite you to dinner. No orders, no private jets, just a guy and a girl eating fish tacos on the boardwalk." Vanessa looked at the spray bottle, then back to the billionaire. For the first time since they met, she did not want to fight him. Chapter 13. The coastal sun dipped behind the ocean, painting the sky in bruised shades of purple and gold. Vanessa flipped the sign on the salon door from open to closed. She let out a long breath, stretching her tired arms above her head. Lincoln still occupied the plastic waiting chair. He wore his black suit trousers and a crisp, dark button-down shirt. He took his jacket off hours ago, draping it over the back of the seat. He spent the entire afternoon folding towels and staying out of her way. The billionaire actually kept his promise. He did not issue a single command since their truce. Vanessa grabbed her black-coated shears from the counter and slipped them into their protective leather pouch. "You survived the whole day," Vanessa noted, leaning her hip against the front desk. "I expected you to call your private jet and leave by noon." "I told you I am staying," Lincoln stated. He stood up, rolling his broad shoulders. "We have dinner plans. Fish tacos. I intend to honor the arrangement." Before Vanessa could grab her keys, the salon door handle rattled. Someone knocked hard against the glass. Vanessa frowned. She turned around to see a familiar face peering through the window. Jessica stood on the sidewalk, holding her bright pink leather purse and sporting a huge, triumphant grin. Lincoln let out a sharp groan. "Tell me you locked the deadbolt." Vanessa unlocked the door and pulled it open. Jessica practically skipped into the room, bringing a chaotic wave of energy with her. She looked from Vanessa to her brother, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "I found you," Jessica announced. "It took a 3-hour flight and a terrible rental car, but I made it. And look at you two, still in the same room without killing each other. My magic touch works wonders." "Your magic touch stranded my car in the middle of nowhere," Lincoln countered, his jaw tight. "What are you doing here, Jess? I told you to stay in the city." "I refuse to miss the fun," Jessica said, waving her hand to dismiss his bad mood. "I rented a cabin down the road. It sits right on the edge of the woods. Beautiful view, big fireplace, and I ordered a mountain of barbecue for dinner. You are both coming over right now." Vanessa crossed her arms. Her wild beta wolf paced in her mind, suspicious of the witch's sudden arrival. "She wants to trap us again. Do not get in a car with her. Bite her pink bag." "I appreciate the offer, Jessica," Vanessa replied. "But Lincoln and I already made plans. We are grabbing food on the boardwalk." "The boardwalk is crowded and noisy," Jessica argued. "My cabin has privacy. Plus, I already paid for brisket and ribs. Come on, a nice, quiet family dinner. What could go wrong?" Lincoln looked at Vanessa. He did not issue an order. He did not tell her to grab her coat. Instead, he waited for her to make the choice. He showed her genuine respect, leaving the decision in her hands. Vanessa noticed the shift in his behavior. It sent a warm spark down the mate bond connecting them. He was learning. "Fine," Vanessa agreed, "but I drive my own car. I refuse to get stranded in the woods." Half an hour later, Vanessa parked her rusty blue sedan in the gravel driveway of a giant 2-story log cabin. The place screamed expensive rental. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the front entrance. Pine trees surrounded the property, casting long, dark shadows over the yard. Lincoln pulled up right behind her in a rented black SUV. He stepped out, carrying the paper bags full of barbecue. The rich scent of smoked meat filled the cool night air, making Vanessa's stomach rumble. Jessica unlocked the heavy wooden front door. She ushered them inside like a proud host. The interior featured a giant stone fireplace and a wide, rough-hewn wooden dining table. "Take a seat," Jessica commanded, grabbing the food bags from Lincoln. "I will plate the food. Do not touch the good silverware in the drawers, Vanessa. I brought thick plastic forks just for you. Safety first." Vanessa dropped her green canvas bag by the door. She took a seat at the long wooden table. Lincoln sat down across from her. He unbuttoned the cuffs of his dark shirt and rolled the sleeves up to his elbows. The action put his thick forearms on display, drawing Vanessa's eyes. The silence between them felt different this time. The hostile edge vanished. A thick, charged anticipation took its place. Jessica dumped a pile of ribs onto 2 paper plates, set them on the table, and grabbed her pink purse. "Oh, look at the time," Jessica gasped, checking her phone screen. "I need to call my landlord back home. It might take hours. You two eat without me. Have fun!" The witch spun around and marched down the hall, slamming a bedroom door shut behind her. Vanessa stared at the closed door. She is not even trying to hide it. Lincoln picked up a plastic fork. A genuine, relaxed smile crossed his face. She is a menace, but the food smells great. Let us eat. Chapter 14. The fire crackled in the stone hearth, casting a warm, orange glow across the wooden dining table. Vanessa picked up a barbecue rib with her bare hands. She took a bite, letting out a hum of approval. The sweet and spicy sauce coated her fingers. She did not bother using the plastic fork Jessica provided. Wolves preferred eating with their hands anyway. Lincoln watched her from across the table. He mirrored her actions, ditching his usual refined manners. He grabbed a rib and took a bite. A drop of sauce landed on his expensive dark shirt. He did not even flinch. A few days ago, a stain on his designer clothes would cause a meltdown. Now, he just wiped his mouth with a cheap paper napkin and kept eating. His lazy inner wolf purred in his mind. This is the best date ever. Meat, a fire, a beautiful mate. Tell her she looks pretty, then see if she has more ribs. You ruined your shirt, Vanessa pointed out, nodding at the stain. Lincoln looked down, shrugging his broad shoulders. I can buy another shirt. I cannot buy barbecue this good in the city. Vanessa grabbed another paper napkin and wiped her fingers. The tension from the salon completely vanished, replaced by a red-hot chemistry that made the air feel thick. She studied his face in the firelight. He looked softer. The harsh, commanding lines of his jaw relaxed. You act different when you are not barking orders, Vanessa noted. Lincoln leaned back in his wooden chair. He rested his hands on his stomach. I run a vast empire, Vanessa. People look to me for direction every minute of the day. If I show weakness or hesitate, rival packs tear my companies apart. Being a demanding alpha keeps my people safe. But you are not in the boardroom right now, Vanessa countered. I know, Lincoln agreed. He locked his dark eyes with hers. And I am trying to figure out how to be a mate to a woman who refuses to follow my lead. Vanessa's breath caught in her throat. The honesty in his voice hit her hard. He laid his cards on the table. He stopped fighting her independence and started trying to understand it. Tell me about your old pack, Lincoln requested. He kept his tone soft, asking a question instead of making a demand. You run from alphas. Why? Vanessa looked away, staring into the flickering flames of the fireplace. Her wild beta wolf whined, recalling the bad memories. I grew up in the Ironwood pack, Vanessa explained, her voice dropping lower. The alpha there ruled through fear. He told everyone where to work, who to marry, and what to wear. If you stepped out of line, he punished you. I watched him break the spirit of every strong wolf in the territory. I refused to let him break mine. She turned her gaze back to Lincoln. When I felt the mate bond snap in the salon, I saw your suit. I heard your bossy tone. I thought you were just another Ironwood alpha coming to lock me in a cage. Lincoln's expression darkened with genuine anger. His jaw clenched tight. The thought of another man treating her with cruelty sent a protective rage burning through his chest. I protect what is mine, Lincoln stated, his voice a deep, vibrating rumble. I build empires, Vanessa. I do not build cages. I want you to ramp your shop. I want you to laugh with your boss. I want you to throw water in my face when I act like a jerk. I want a partner, not a prisoner. The words settled in the space between them, heavy and final. Vanessa felt a hot blush creep up her neck. Her wild wolf stopped pacing and laid down, finally accepting the truth. This billionaire was not a tyrant. He was just a stubborn man who needed to learn how to share control. Good, Vanessa said, offering a small, bold smirk. Because if you ever try to lock me up, I will burn your fancy cars to the ground. Lincoln let out a loud, booming laugh. It was a rich, wonderful sound that filled the large cabin. I believe you. And for the record, the black sedan you saw yesterday is a rental. Burn it whenever you want. They spent the 2 hours talking. Lincoln asked about her favorite coastal spots. Vanessa asked about his sister's strange magic. The conversation flowed easy and fast. The sharp banter remained, but the venom was gone. They traded quick jokes and shared stories, building a real connection beneath the supernatural bond tying them together. Vanessa realized she liked the man underneath the designer clothes. He carried a heavy burden of leadership. He hid a sharp sense of humor. Outside the cabin, the wind picked up, howling through the tall pine trees. The peaceful moment inside the warm dining room masked the approaching danger. They sat at the table, completely unaware of the glowing yellow eyes watching them from the dark tree line. Chapter 15. The coastal wind whipped against the large glass windows of the cabin, rattling the thick wooden frames. Vanessa grabbed the empty paper plates from the dining table. She tossed them into a black plastic trash bag near the kitchen counter. Her stomach felt full. Her mind felt clear. The constant urge to run away faded into a distant memory. Lincoln stood by the glass front of the gas fireplace, watching the artificial flames flicker. He turned to face her. The firelight danced across the planes of his face, highlighting the strong, sharp cut of his jaw. "Come out to the porch with me," Lincoln offered. "The air feels good tonight." Vanessa nodded. She grabbed her heavy winter coat from the back of a dining chair and slipped it on. Lincoln opened the heavy front door. They stepped out onto the wide, wraparound wooden deck. The night air hit them, carrying the familiar scent of fresh sea breeze mixed with the sharp smell of pine needles. The driveway sat empty, except for Vanessa's rusty blue sedan and Lincoln's rented SUV. The woods beyond the gravel looked like a solid wall of black ink. Vanessa leaned against the wooden railing. Lincoln stood right beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. The heat radiating off his large frame kept the coastal chill away. "Jessica is going to claim this as a total victory," Vanessa joked, staring out at the trees. "She is going to brag about her matchmaking skills for the rest of our lives." "Let her brag," Lincoln replied, his voice a low rumble in the quiet night. He turned his head to look at her. "She brought me to you. I owe her a new car for that." Vanessa smiled, a genuine, warm expression. She opened her mouth to reply, but a sudden shift in the wind made her stop. Her inner wolf snapped to attention. The hairs on the back of Vanessa's neck stood straight up. Her nostrils flared. The scent of the sea breeze vanished, replaced by a harsh, foul odor. It smelled like wet dirt, spoiled meat, and bitter rust. It was the scent of rogue wolves, and the smell was suffocating. There was not just one wolf out there, there were many. "Lincoln," Vanessa whispered, her voice tight with instant panic. Lincoln felt it too. His body went completely rigid. The lazy, relaxed energy drained from him in a fraction of a second. The elite alpha took over. His dark eyes scanned the tree line, his vision piercing the heavy shadows. "Get inside," Lincoln ordered. He did not yell, but the sheer force of his tone left no room for argument. "Lock the door. Do not come out." "I am not leaving you," Vanessa shot back, her wild beta wolf baring its teeth in her mind. She dropped into a defensive stance, gripping the wooden railing. Before Lincoln could argue, the shadows at the edge of the woods began to move. A huge man stepped out from behind a thick pine tree. He wore torn jeans and a heavy leather jacket. His face was covered in thick scars, and his eyes burned with a toxic yellow glow. 4 more men stepped out behind him, fanning out across the gravel driveway. They blocked the path to the cars. "Well, well," the scarred man mocked. His voice sounded like grinding rocks. "Look what we found hiding in the woods. The great billionaire alpha playing house in a rental cabin." Lincoln stepped in front of Vanessa, shielding her body with his broad frame. A deep, terrifying growl ripped from his throat. The sound vibrated the wooden floorboards beneath their feet. "Garrett," Lincoln snarled, identifying the rival alpha. Garrett spat on the gravel. "You got careless, Lincoln. You left your city fortress. You left your security team behind. all to chase a little runaway hairdresser across state lines. Vanessa's heart pounded against her ribs. She heard stories about Garrett's pack. They were scavengers. They challenged wealthy alphas, taking over their territories and draining their resources. They tracked Lincoln all the way from the city, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "This is my territory tonight," Lincoln warned, his voice booming with pure dominance. "Turn around and walk away, Garrett, or I will bury you under this driveway." Garrett laughed. The 4 men behind him cracked their knuckles and stepped closer. "You are outnumbered, Suit. 5 against 1. We take your life, we take your companies, and we take your little mate as a prize." Hearing Garrett threaten Vanessa was the final straw. Inside Lincoln's head, the lazy, napping wolf opened its glowing red eyes. The beast let out a roar of pure, unbridled fury. Nobody threatened their mate. Nobody ruined their peaceful vacation. "Kill them all," the inner wolf demanded. Lincoln's eyes flashed a brilliant, blinding gold. He let out a roar that shook the glass windows of the cabin, preparing to meet the rival pack head-on. Chapter 16. The gravel driveway erupted into chaos. Garrett gave a sharp hand signal. The 4 rival wolves charged forward. They did not bother shifting into their animal forms. They rushed the porch as heavy, brutal brawlers, aiming to overwhelm Lincoln with sheer numbers. "Stay behind me!" Lincoln roared at Vanessa. He vaulted over the wooden porch railing, landing hard on the gravel below. He met the first attacker with a devastating right hook. The impact sounded like a cracking tree branch. The rogue wolf flew backward, slamming into the hood of the rented SUV. Lincoln moved with terrifying speed for a man his size. He grabbed the second attacker by the collar of his shirt, lifting him off the ground, and hurled him into the thick trunk of a pine tree. The elite alpha fought with calculated, brutal precision. He wore an expensive dark shirt, but he fought like a street brawler. Vanessa stood on the porch, her pulse hammering in her ears. Her wild beta wolf paced a frantic circle in her mind. "Help him!" her inner wolf snarled. "Bite them! Defend our alpha!" Garrett watched his men fall back. He let out a frustrated snarl. "Enough playing around! Shift!" The sound of snapping bones and tearing fabric filled the night air. Garrett and his remaining 3 men dropped to the gravel. Dark, matted fur ripped through their skin. In seconds, 4 giant, snarling wolves stood in the driveway. Garrett was the largest, sporting a coat of scarred gray fur and toxic yellow eyes. Lincoln stood his ground. He cracked his neck, his golden eyes burning bright in the darkness. His lazy inner wolf completely took over, furious that these scavengers dared to interrupt their perfect dinner. Lincoln let out a deafening roar and shifted. His clothes tore away, his bones cracked and elongated. He transformed into a giant, terrifying alpha wolf. His fur was pitch black, thick and sleek, blending perfectly into the shadows. He towered over Garrett, radiating a crushing aura of raw power. Garrett's gray wolf lunged, aiming for Lincoln's throat. Lincoln sidestepped the attack with lightning speed. He snapped his large jaws, catching Garrett by the scruff of his neck, and tossed the rival alpha across the yard. But the other 3 wolves swarmed Lincoln. One bit into his hind leg. Another jumped onto his broad back, tearing at his dark fur. Vanessa watched from the porch, her blood running cold. Lincoln was hefty and strong, but fighting 4 wolves at once was a death sentence. He needed backup. "Hey!" Vanessa screamed, leaning over the wooden railing. She did not wait for permission. She did not hide in the cabin like a fragile prize. Vanessa vaulted over the railing, hitting the gravel in a dead sprint. As her boots touched the ground, she let her wild beta wolf take complete control. The shift happened in midair. Her winter coat and jeans shredded as her body transformed. She hit the driveway on 4 paws, sliding in the loose rocks. She was smaller than Lincoln, sporting a beautiful coat of russet brown fur, but she was fast. She let out a fierce, ringing howl that echoed through the coastal woods. Lincoln's black wolf tossed an attacker aside and looked at her in shock. He expected her to run. He expected her to hide behind locked doors. Instead, she stood shoulder to shoulder with him, baring her sharp white fangs at the rival pack. His lazy inner wolf purred a happy, bloodthirsty sound in his mind. Told you she was perfect. She came to fight. Let us show them what a real pack looks like. A rogue wolf lunged at Lincoln's blind spot. Vanessa intercepted the attack like a furry missile. She slammed her russet-brown body into the rogue, knocking him off balance. She clamped her jaws around the rogue's front leg, biting down hard. The rogue yelped and scrambled backward, terrified by the sudden ferocity of the beta female. Lincoln used the opening. He charged Garrett, pinning the rival alpha to the gravel. He pressed his massive paws onto Garrett's chest and let out a roar that promised absolute destruction. Seeing their leader pinned and bleeding, the remaining 3 rogues broke rank. They turned their tails and bolted into the dark woods, abandoning the fight entirely. Garrett whimpered, his toxic yellow eyes wide with fear. Lincoln snapped his jaws an inch from Garrett's face, delivering a final warning. He released his grip. Garrett scrambled to his paws, limping frantically toward the tree line, disappearing into the shadows. The driveway fell silent. The only sound was the heavy panting of the 2 wolves standing under the coastal moon. Vanessa's russet-brown wolf turned to face Lincoln. She shook the dirt from her fur and let out a soft, questioning whine. Lincoln's giant black wolf stepped forward. He did not puff his chest out. He did not act superior. He lowered his head, pressing his cold nose against her neck in a gentle, respectful greeting. She fought beside him. She proved her strength. She was not just his mate, she was his equal. Chapter 17. The cold coastal wind whipped across the gravel driveway, rustling the dark pine trees surrounding the cabin. Vanessa stood on 4 paws, her russet-brown fur ruffled by the breeze. She kept her eyes locked on the dark tree line, watching the shadows for any sign of Garrett and his rogue pack returning. Nothing moved. The threat was gone. Beside her, Lincoln's giant black wolf let out a deep, rumbling exhale. His chest heaved. He bumped his large, cold nose against her shoulder. It was a silent question, asking if she sustained any injuries during the brawl. Vanessa shook her head, her ears flicking back. She survived the fight without a single scratch. Lincoln, however, took a hit. Vanessa looked down at his hind leg. Dark blood matted his sleek black fur where one of the rogues clamped down. It was a nasty bite, deep enough to require immediate attention. Their clothes lay scattered across the sharp gravel. Anna's heavy winter coat and favorite jeans were reduced to shredded ribbons of denim and fabric. Lincoln's tailored dark trousers and crisp shirt fared no better. The transformation ripped the expensive garments into useless rags. They could not shift back without exposing themselves to the freezing coastal air and each other. The heavy wooden front door of the cabin creaked open. Jessica stood in the doorway, her bright pink leather purse hanging from one shoulder. She held 2 thick, plush gray blankets in her arms. She took one look at the giant wolves standing in the driveway, the blood and the shredded clothes. She did not panic. She just offered a knowing smirk. "I see the dinner party got a little out of hand," Jessica called out, tossing the thick blankets onto the wooden porch. "Wrap up and get inside before you freeze your paws off. I am making tea." The witch turned around and vanished back into the warm cabin. Lincoln stepped forward, his slight limp obvious. He grabbed one of the gray blankets in his jaws and dragged it behind the rented black SUV to give himself cover. Vanessa followed his lead, snagging the second blanket and trotting to the opposite side of her rusty blue sedan. Safe behind the metal frame of her car, Vanessa let her human form return. The shift back always felt like a sudden rush of heat, followed by a wave of exhaustion. Her bones popped and realigned. Her fur melted away into pale, shivering skin. The cold gravel bit into the soles of her bare feet. She scrambled to grab the plush gray blanket, wrapping it tight around her shoulders and tucking the ends under her arms to secure it. Her wild beta wolf buzzed with leftover adrenaline. The beast paced a frantic circle in her mind. "We fought! We won! We protected our alpha!" Vanessa leaned against the cold trunk of her sedan and caught her breath. Her heart hammered a frantic drumline against her ribs. She just risked her life to fight beside a man she met a few days ago. The realization hit her like a bucket of ice water. She ran across 3 state lines to escape him, and the second danger appeared, she threw herself into the crossfire to keep him safe. She walked around the front of the car. Lincoln stepped out from behind the SUV. He held his gray blanket wrapped around his waist, leaving his broad, scarred chest bare to the cold night air. The firelight from the cabin windows illuminated the sharp cuts of his muscles and the bleeding wound on his right thigh. He did not look like a corporate billionaire. He looked like a warrior. His dark eyes found hers. The mate bond hummed between them, steady and electric. There were no arrogant commands or bossy demands. He just offered a quiet nod of respect. "Let us get you inside," Vanessa said, her voice raspy from the cold. She walked to his side, slipping an arm around his waist to support his weight. Lincoln leaned into her touch. He did not let his pride stop him from accepting her help. They hobbled up the wooden porch stairs together, leaving the ruined shreds of their clothes behind in the driveway. They stepped through the front door, shutting the cold out. The cabin living room felt like a furnace. The modern gas fireplace cast a bright, artificial orange glow across the wooden floors. Jessica sat on the edge of the leather sofa, holding a steaming mug. "There is a first aid kit under the bathroom sink," Jessica pointed down the hall. "Fix him up. Then we need to talk about why a pack of ugly rogues just tried to crash my vacation." Chapter 18. Vanessa guided Lincoln to the center of the living room. She eased him down onto the soft cushions of the leather sofa. He gritted his teeth as his injured leg stretched out across the coffee table, but he refused to make a sound of pain. "Stay put," Vanessa instructed, tightening the blanket around her own shoulders. "I am not going anywhere," Lincoln replied, leaning his head back against the sofa. His lazy inner wolf let out a deep, satisfied sigh. "The couch is soft. Tell her to bring snacks when she comes back. Fighting makes us hungry." Vanessa ignored his grumpy beast and hurried down the hall. She found the first aid kit exactly where Jessica promised. She grabbed a plastic bottle of antiseptic, a stack of white cotton pads, and a roll of thick medical tape. When she returned to the living room, Jessica was gone. The witch retreated to her bedroom, leaving the 2 mates alone in the warm glow of the gas fireplace. Vanessa knelt on the floor next to the coffee table. She arranged the medical supplies on the wood. "This is going to sting. Do not kick me." "I survive hostile corporate takeovers every Tuesday," Lincoln joked, his voice a low, tired rumble. "I can handle a little rubbing alcohol." Vanessa poured the clear liquid onto a cotton pad. She pressed it against the deep puncture wounds on his thigh. Lincoln's entire body tensed. His hands gripped the edges of the leather sofa cushions, knuckles turning white, but he kept his leg perfectly still. "Garrett tracked you," Vanessa said, focusing on cleaning the dark blood from his skin. "He followed you all the way from the city. He knew you left your security team behind." "Garrett is a scavenger," Lincoln stated. He watched her hands work, his dark eyes tracking her every movement. "He challenges alphas when they leave their territory. He thought he could corner me, take my life, and steal my companies. He underestimated us." Vanessa stopped wiping. She looked up, catching his gaze. "Us." He did not take all the credit. He acknowledged her role in the fight. "You fought like a seasoned enforcer out there," Lincoln continued, his tone devoid of his usual arrogance. "You hit that rogue fast and hard. You saved my blind spot." "I am a beta," Vanessa replied, securing a thick bandage over the clean wound with white medical tape. "I know how to defend my pack." The word hung in the air between them. Pack. She spent years running away from the very concept. She abandoned her old territory to escape the crushing rules. Yet here she was, claiming this grumpy billionaire as her own. Her wild inner wolf nudged her thoughts. Lick his face. Tell him he did a good job biting the ugly gray wolf. Vanessa pushed the animal instinct aside. She gathered the used cotton pads and tossed them into the trash bin next to the sofa. She sat back on her heels, resting her hands on her knees. The adrenaline rush from the fight finally crashed. The room felt heavy. Lincoln looked exhausted. The fierce, terrifying alpha who ripped through rogue wolves in the driveway was gone. In his place sat a vulnerable man, shivering slightly under his gray blanket. "I brought this danger to your door," Lincoln admitted, his voice dropping to a whisper. He dragged a hand through his messy hair. "You built a safe life in that coastal town. You cut hair. You had peace. I dragged my enemies right to your front porch. I am sorry, Vanessa." The apology hit her like a physical shock. Billionaires did not apologize. Elite alphas never admitted fault. They blamed the world and demanded others fix the mess. Lincoln was different. He saw the risk he placed her in, and he hated it. "Garrett made the choice to attack," Vanessa corrected him. She stood up from the floor and took a seat on the sofa right next to him. "You made the choice to stand in front of me and take the hit. You protected me." Lincoln turned his head. He looked at her, searching her face for any sign of fear or regret. He found none. "I will always protect you," Lincoln promised. The tension in his broad shoulders melted away. His inner wolf let out a contented purr, thrilled to have the fierce beta sitting so close. Vanessa let out a long breath, letting her own guard down. The fight was over, and they survived it together. Chapter 19. The artificial flames of the modern gas fireplace flickered in a steady, rhythmic loop. The mechanical hum of the heater provided a white noise that filled the quiet cabin. Vanessa sat on the leather couch, her legs pulled up to her chest beneath the thick gray blanket. Lincoln sat inches away from her. The heat radiating off his large frame seeped into her skin, chasing away the last bit of the coastal chill. His blanket slipped down a few inches, revealing the dark, ink-like tattoos marking his left shoulder, symbols of his pack lineage and alpha status. Her wild beta wolf stretched out in her mind. The beast, usually desperate to run or fight, felt entirely at peace. "No more running," the inner wolf demanded, letting out a soft whine. "Stay here. Cuddle the big, grumpy wolf. He is ours now." Vanessa rested her chin on her knees. She realized her wolf was right. For 3 years, she viewed independence as isolation. She thought keeping everyone at a distance was the only way to retain control over her own life. But sitting here next to Lincoln felt like a locked door finally swinging open. "You are quiet," Lincoln observed. He shifted his weight, wincing a little as his injured leg brushed the coffee table. "Just thinking," Vanessa replied, "about how I hit you with a water bottle yesterday, and today we fought a gang of rogue wolves together. It has been a weird week." Lincoln let out a deep, booming laugh. The sound echoed off the wooden ceiling beams. "You sprayed me right in the eyes. My board of directors would pay millions for a video of that moment. They think I am made of stone." "You act like you are made of stone," Vanessa teased, nudging his good leg with her foot. "You walked into my salon wearing a custom suit and barked orders like a tyrant. You expected me to just drop my scissors and bow." "I was a fool," Lincoln admitted, showing no shame. "I spent my entire adult life running companies and commanding a pack. If I hesitate, my enemies smell blood. I treat every situation like a business deal. I treated our mate bond the same way. I was wrong." Before Vanessa could respond, a bedroom door clicked open down the hall. Jessica shuffled into the living room wearing a pair of bright yellow, oversized, fluffy slippers. She ignored the 2 wolves on the couch and walked straight to the open kitchen. She poured a glass of water from the sink, took a long sip, and turned to face them. "I see nobody killed each other while I was hiding," Jessica noted, leaning against the granite counter. "My matchmaking skills remain undefeated. You are welcome. I expect a luxurious gift basket for my efforts, Lincoln, the kind with the fancy cheeses." "Go back to sleep, Jess," Lincoln groaned, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Jessica offered a smug salute with her water glass. She padded across the wooden floor in her ridiculous yellow slippers, disappearing back down the hallway. The bedroom door clicked shut. Vanessa laughed. She planned this entire thing. The broken car, the forgotten purse, the cabin. She played us like a fiddle. She is a menace, Lincoln agreed, a fond smile breaking through his serious expression. But she was right. I needed a wake-up call. I needed someone who refuses to let me win every argument. He turned his body to face her. He lifted his hand, pausing for a second to ensure she welcomed the touch. Vanessa gave a small nod. He brushed a stray lock of hair behind her ear. His fingers felt warm and rough. The mate bond settled deep in Vanessa's chest. It no longer felt like a chaotic electric shock. It felt like a steady, undeniable anchor. She leaned her head against his broad shoulder. He wrapped his thick arm around her, pulling her close. I like the beach town, Lincoln murmured, his chin resting near the top of her head. The air is clean. The people do not care about stock prices. I think my lazy wolf wants to retire here. Your lazy wolf needs to learn how to fold towels faster if he wants to stay in my salon, Vanessa mumbled against his chest. They sat together as the night stretched on, the fear of the rogue attack fading into the background. Vanessa closed her eyes. She stopped fighting the bond. She stopped planning her next escape route. For the first time in her life, she was exactly where she belonged. Chapter 20. Morning sunlight streamed through the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, casting bright geometric shapes across the cabin floor. Vanessa woke up to the smell of fresh coffee. She stretched her arms, finding the leather sofa empty beside her. She sat up, adjusting the plush gray blanket around her shoulders. Lincoln stood in the open kitchen. He wore a pair of oversized gray sweatpants and a plain white t-shirt. Jessica clearly raided the cabin owner's laundry room to find clothes big enough to fit his giant frame. He poured dark coffee into 2 ceramic mugs. He moved with a slight limp, favoring his injured leg, but the dangerous edge of the alpha warrior was tucked away. Good morning, Lincoln called out, spotting her movement. He walked over to the living room and handed her a warm mug. Morning, Vanessa replied, taking a sip. The bitter caffeine hit her system, waking her up. Where is the matchmaker? Jessica took my rental SUV to town, Lincoln explained, taking a seat in the armchair across from the sofa. She claims she needs to buy real breakfast food because I ate all the barbecue. In reality, she just wants to give us space to talk. Vanessa gripped the warm ceramic mug with both hands. The easy banter from last night felt great, but the daylight brought reality back into focus. They survived the attack. They accepted the mate bond. Now, they needed to figure out how their lives fit together. I am not moving to the city, Vanessa stated, drawing her line in the sand. Lincoln took a drink of his coffee. He set his mug down on the wooden coffee table. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. He looked her dead in the eye, his expression completely serious. I know, Lincoln agreed, and I am not asking you to leave. Vanessa blinked, surprised by the easy concession. You run a corporate empire. You cannot manage 5 companies from a beach town. I have a board of directors and a private jet, Lincoln countered. I can delegate the daily operations. I spent the last 10 years building my wealth. It is time I actually enjoy my life, and I want to enjoy it here, with you. He reached for his sleek smartphone resting on the coffee table, salvaged from the driveway by Jessica earlier that morning, and tapped the screen a few times. He set the phone on the wood and pushed it toward her. Vanessa leaned forward and looked at the screen. It displayed a digital real estate contract. The address listed belonged to the Curl and Dye Salon building. What is this? Vanessa asked, her guard instantly going up. Her wild beta wolf let out a warning growl. He is trying to buy us. Reject the contract. I apologize for how I acted in your old shop, Lincoln said, keeping his voice steady and calm. I tried to use my money to trap you. I told you I would buy the building and shut it down. That was the act of an arrogant fool. He pointed to the digital document. This is different, Lincoln explained. "I contacted the owner of the Curl and Dye building this morning. The price tag is pocket change for my accounts. I am buying the entire property, but I am putting the deed entirely in your name." Vanessa stared at the screen. "You are buying me a building?" "I am buying you freedom," Lincoln corrected. "No strings attached, no corporate oversight. You own the brick, the mortar, and the styling chairs. You can run your business, hire Brenda as your manager, and never answer to a landlord again. It is yours, Vanessa. Even if you decide to kick me out tomorrow, the building remains yours." The words hit her hard. He listened to every single complaint she made. He understood her deep-rooted fear of control, and he used his resources to destroy that fear instead of fueling it. He handed her the ultimate independence. Vanessa looked up from the glowing screen. She saw the honest devotion in his dark eyes. The last remaining wall around her heart crumbled into dust. "You think giving me a hair salon makes up for being a grumpy jerk?" Vanessa asked, a huge smile breaking across her face. Lincoln let out a deep, rolling laugh. "I think it is a solid down payment on an apology. Will you take the deal?" Vanessa reached across the coffee table. She did not touch the phone. She grabbed the collar of his plain white t-shirt and pulled him forward. She kissed him, sealing the bond, the business deal, and their future all at once. Inside their minds, the wolves rejoiced. The wild firecracker wolf finally found a partner strong enough to run with, and the lazy alpha wolf finally got to take his nap. Chapter 21. The heavy wooden front door of the cabin swung open. Jessica strutted into the living room, holding 2 plastic grocery bags full of bread, eggs, and bacon. She dropped the bags onto the kitchen counter and let out a dramatic gasp. Vanessa sat on the leather sofa, her head resting on Lincoln's shoulder. Lincoln had his arm wrapped tight around her waist. The tension that filled the room for the past 4 days was gone, replaced by a comfortable, easy silence. "Well, well, well," Jessica teased, placing her hands on her hips. "Do my eyes deceive me, or did the big bad alpha finally learn some manners?" "I bought a building," Lincoln stated, not bothering to move his arm. He kept his voice steady, offering a rare, genuine smile to his sister. Jessica narrowed her eyes, studying them both. "You bought a building? Please tell me you did not buy her a golden cage. I will turn your new rental SUV into a pumpkin right now, Lincoln." "No cages," Vanessa answered, sitting up slightly. She pointed to the sleek smartphone resting on the coffee table. "He bought the Curl and Dye property, but he put the deed in my name. No strings, no corporate oversight. He just handed me the keys to my own future." Jessica grabbed an apple from one of the grocery bags and took a loud bite. "Wow, I expected you to just offer her a shiny credit card and a penthouse. You actually used your brain. I am impressed." "I am learning," Lincoln admitted. He looked down at Vanessa, the golden ring of his alpha eyes softening. "I learned that throwing money at a beta who survived Ironwood rules is a fast way to get a water bottle sprayed in your face." Vanessa laughed, the sound bright and clear. Her wild inner wolf purred a happy tune in her mind. "We own a shop. No more running. Tell the witch to make us bacon." "Speaking of learning," Vanessa said, turning to Jessica, "we need to talk about your driving skills. That stunt you pulled with the broken alternator on day 1 was dangerous. We could have been stranded on that country highway for hours." Jessica waved a hand, dismissing the concern. "Details. You met your mate, did you not? The universe required a push, and I provided an elegant shove. Now, who wants breakfast? I brought the thick-cut bacon, and I refuse to cook it myself." Lincoln groaned. He slowly stood up from the leather sofa, favoring his bandaged right leg. The thick white medical tape held firm over the rogue bite. He limped toward the open kitchen, rolling up the sleeves of his borrowed white t-shirt. "I run 5 companies," Lincoln muttered, grabbing a frying pan from the rack. "And now I am the short-order cook for a sassy hairdresser and a manipulative witch." "You love it," Vanessa called out from the couch, pulling the plush gray blanket tighter around her shoulders. Lincoln cracked an egg into the hot pan. He did not argue. The sizzle of the food mixed with the distant sound of the coastal waves outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. He looked over his shoulder, catching Vanessa's eye. The grumpy billionaire was gone. The demanding tyrant was erased. He was just a man making breakfast for his pack, and he looked entirely at peace with the job. Chapter 22. The bell above the curl and dye front door let out a cheerful chime. Vanessa stood behind her styling chair, sweeping up a small pile of blonde hair. She wore a pair of faded denim overalls and a bright white t-shirt. She felt lighter today. The heavy weight of constant vigilance vanished from her shoulders. The deed to the building sat safely locked in the front desk drawer. She owned her space. Jessica walked into the shop, bringing a wave of chaotic energy. She ditched her bright pink purse today, opting for a sleek black leather backpack. She marched right past the waiting chairs and plopped down into Vanessa's styling seat. "All right, boss lady," Jessica announced, crossing her legs. "I need the best haircut of my life, and I want the family discount." Vanessa leaned her broom against the wall. She grabbed a black plastic styling cape and threw it over Jessica's shoulders, snapping the clip tight at the back of her neck. "You strand me in a country diner, trap me in a cabin with rogue wolves, and now you want a discount?" Vanessa joked, reaching for her black-coated steel shears. "I should charge you triple for the emotional damage." "I brought you true love," Jessica countered, waving her hand in the air. "I am a hero. Plus, Lincoln is paying the bill anyway. Speaking of my grumpy brother, where is he? I figured he would be guarding the door and growling at the mailman." "He is in the back office," Vanessa said, using her comb to separate a section of Jessica's dark hair. "He ordered a new desk. He claims he needs a workspace to manage his companies if he is going to stay in this town." Jessica let out a loud snort. "Lincoln? Working in the back room of a hair salon? The board of directors in the city must be losing their minds. He usually dictates his memos from a leather chair on the 50th floor. He folds towels, too," Vanessa added, her shears making quick, precise cuts. "You broke him," Jessica laughed. "You actually broke the unyielding alpha. I tried to humble him for 20 years, and you did it in 4 days with a plastic water bottle." Vanessa smiled. Her wild beta wolf rested easy in her mind, content with the sounds of the shop. "We did not break him," the wolf murmured. "We trained him. Now cut the witch's hair so we can go see our mate." Vanessa worked fast, giving Jessica a sharp, modern bob that framed her face perfectly. She dusted the loose hair from Jessica's neck with a soft brush and unclipped the black cape. Jessica looked in the mirror. Her eyes went wide. She ran her fingers through the fresh layers. "Okay, fine. You are a genius. I look amazing." "Of course you do," Vanessa agreed, tossing the cape into the laundry basket. "Now get out of my chair. I have a 2 o'clock color appointment, and I need to go check on the new office boy." Jessica stood up, grabbing her black backpack from the floor. She offered Vanessa a genuine, warm smile. No magic, no manipulation, just real sisterly affection. "Take care of him, Vanessa. Under all those expensive suits and bossy commands, he is a good man." "I know," Vanessa replied. Jessica walked out, the bell chiming behind her. Vanessa turned away from the mirror and headed toward the small hallway at the back of the shop. It was time to see how the billionaire handled his new beach town headquarters. Chapter 23. Vanessa pushed open the door to the small back office. The room smelled like fresh paint and the sharp, wild scent of crushed pine needles. Lincoln sat behind a basic wooden desk, typing fast on a matte black laptop. He wore a simple gray t-shirt and dark jeans. The custom navy and charcoal suits from last week felt like a distant memory. He looked comfortable. He looked at home. His lazy inner wolf perked up in his mind. "Maid is here. Stop typing. Ask for a back scratch." Lincoln ignored the beast, hitting the send key on his keyboard before looking up. "The city pack is frantic. They heard rumors about the rogue attack. I just assured the board of directors that I am alive and well." Did you tell them you are managing the empire from a converted storage closet? Vanessa teased, walking into the room. Lincoln leaned back in his standard office chair. It creaked under his massive weight. I told them I secured a strategic coastal asset. They assume I bought a shipping port. They do not need to know the asset smells like hairspray. Vanessa laughed. She walked around the desk and sat on the edge of the wood, right next to his laptop. She looked down at him. The golden ring in his dark eyes flared bright, reacting to her proximity. The mate bond pulled at them both, humming with a deep, primal heat. Jessica loves her haircut, Vanessa shared, resting her hand on his broad shoulder. She said, under your bossy exterior, you are actually a good man. She is delusional, Lincoln rumbled, his voice dropping into that thick, heavy alpha tone. He reached up, resting his large hand on her waist. I am ruthless. I am terrifying. You folded blue towels for an hour, Vanessa reminded him. You are basically a golden retriever. Lincoln's eyes darkened. He pulled her off the desk and right into his lap. Vanessa let out a surprised gasp, straddling his legs. His hands gripped her hips, firm and possessive. The air in the tiny office vanished. Call me a golden retriever again, Lincoln challenged, his face inches from hers. Vanessa's wild beta wolf howled, thrilled by the sudden display of dominance. Bite him, kiss him, claim him right now. Golden retriever, Vanessa whispered, a wicked smirk on her lips. Lincoln kissed her. The kiss hit hard, full of raw heat and undeniable claim. It was not a polite, gentle touch. It was the fierce collision of two strong wolves finally accepting their fate. Vanessa tangled her fingers in his dark hair, pulling him closer. The bond snapped into place, sealing tight, locking their souls together. The frantic urge to run completely vanished from Vanessa's mind. The heavy burden of endless corporate wars faded from Lincoln's shoulders. They found their anchor. Lincoln pulled back, resting his forehead against hers. They both breathed hard. His injured right leg bumped against the underside of the desk, but he did not care. Mine, Lincoln growled softly, the word vibrating in his chest. Yours, Vanessa agreed, her voice steady and sure. As long as you remember who owns this building. If you start barking orders, I will evict you. Lincoln let out a deep, rolling laugh. Understood, boss. Now, do you have another appointment, or can I lock that door? Lock the door, Vanessa ordered. For the first time in his life, the grumpy billionaire alpha was thrilled to follow a command. Chapter 24. 3 months later, the coastal sun beat down on the small beach town. The curl and dye salon buzzed with loud chatter and the steady hum of blow dryers. Brenda stood at the front register, counting a thick stack of cash. The business boomed since Vanessa took over the deed. She added 2 new styling chairs and painted the walls a calm, crisp white. In the back corner of the shop, far away from the hair clippings, Lincoln sat in a brand new, oversized black leather chair. He wore a dark blue polo shirt and khaki shorts. He held his matte black laptop on his knees, reviewing quarterly profit margins for his real estate company. He looked up from the screen, his dark eyes scanning the room until he found Vanessa. She stood at chair number 2, laughing with a local fisherman while she buzzed the sides of his hair. She wore her faded denim overalls and a bright yellow t-shirt. She looked vibrant. She looked free. His lazy inner wolf stretched out in his mind, letting out a happy yawn. This is a good spot. Soft chair, good view of the mate. Do not ever make me wear a suit again. Lincoln agreed. He managed his empire through morning video calls and afternoon emails. The board of directors accepted his new remote setup after he crushed a rival corporate takeover from his laptop 2 weeks ago. He proved he did not need a glass tower to maintain his power. The front door chimed. Jessica walked in, carrying a tray of iced coffees from the Boardwalk Cafe. She wore a bright green sundress and a pair of huge sunglasses. She bypassed the waiting area and headed straight for Lincoln's corner. Delivery for the office boy, Jessica announced, handing him a cold plastic cup. I need my roots touched up next week, by the way. Make sure the boss lady puts me in the book. Tell her yourself, Lincoln grumbled, taking a sip of the sweet coffee. I am reviewing contracts. I am not a receptionist. You sit in a hair salon all day, Jessica teased, pull her sunglasses down her nose. You are basically part of the decor now, big brother. Accept your fate. Vanessa finished her cut, brushed the loose hair from the fisherman's neck, and walked over to Lincoln's corner. She grabbed her iced coffee from Jessica's tray. Stop bothering my favorite tenant, Jess, Vanessa joked, taking a long drink. She leaned against the arm of Lincoln's leather chair. Lincoln wrapped his free arm around her waist, pulling her close against his side. The casual display of affection felt natural. The mate bond hummed a steady, warm rhythm between them. I am just making sure he remembers who runs the show, Jessica laughed. She picked up her bright pink purse from a nearby chair. I am going to the beach. See you two at dinner. Do not burn the stakes tonight, Lincoln. The witch waved and walked out, the bell chiming her exit. Vanessa looked down at Lincoln. She traced the edge of his polo collar with her finger. You burned the stakes last week. She is never going to let you forget it. I got distracted, Lincoln defended himself, pulling her down for a quick kiss. My mate was wearing a very distracting dress. Vanessa smiled, resting her hand on his broad chest. She looked around the bright, loud salon. She built a safe haven here, and she did not have to run away to keep it. She stood beside a powerful alpha who respected her strength and matched her fire. The grumpy billionaire found his peace in a beach town, and the runaway beta finally found her home. The end. And that wraps up Lincoln and Vanessa's story. Thank you all for listening to this wild ride. But if you think the grumpy billionaire alpha and our runaway beta just went quietly to sleep after buying that salon, think again. I wrote a burning hot, exclusive bonus epilogue called The After Hours Appointment, and it takes the heat to a whole new level. Lincoln gets stuck working late in the back office, and Vanessa decides to break his concentration wearing nothing but his dark dress shirt. The mate bond takes over, and things get wild. If you want the full, unfiltered, spicy payoff, click the Patreon link in the description or pinned comment right now to unlock it. See you there!